Ruan Mei is an Ice Harmony character that increases your whole team's break efficiency, speed, damage percent, and she can even extend the duration that your enemies are broken for. She can enable a wide variety of teams and looks to be very promising for dual carry and breaker comps. This video will talk about Ruan Mei's best light cones, relics, team building, and Eidolons from an F2P perspective. I've laid out the chapters so you can skip ahead to the part that you need to hear most. Kit breakdown. Ruan Mei has a lot of things going for her. First, let's tackle her skill. Her skill buffs the whole team for 3 turns. With the way her rotations work, this buff will always be up. She gives her whole team a 30% damage boost and 50% weakness break efficiency. The 30% damage is pretty much equivalent to a damage percent sphere. So if your characters already have a lot of damage percent in their kit, you may want to consider shifting them to attack percent spheres. But that's on a case-by-case basis. We've seen the 50% weakness break efficiency through a Nihility Blessing in Simulated Universe, and it'll behave the same way. It multiplies your toughness damage by 1.5 and makes weakness breaking way faster. This enables comps where there are multiple units that reduce toughness bars often and rely on the break mechanic to deal damage. These units include, but aren't limited to, Dot Nihilities, Shuei, Himiko, and much more. Her talent increases her team's speed by 10% just by existing, and when Ruan Mei's allies break an enemy's weakness, she deals extra damage to them, depending on her ice break damage. Just a sprinkle of MVs to spice it up. And finally, her ultimate. Her ultimate gives all of her allies 25% all-type respen for 2 turns. This is great because there aren't much sources of respen in the game, and getting some more buffs that aren't diluted as much by relative diminishing returns is appreciated. But that's not all. When Ruan Mei's allies weakness break an enemy, their action is delayed, and their weakness break effect is extended. They also get dealt extra damage that scales on Ruan Mei's break effect. This means that you can freeze enemies for 2 turns and delay their actions even further. I can see just so many stall comps being enabled by this. Welt, March, Jeopard, and even Entangles can benefit quite a lot from this. For a Harmony character, her HP and Def are quite meaty. She also has a bunch of defensive traces. As long as your sustainers are decently invested, you won't have to worry about her getting one-shot. Rotation. I highly recommend you take an Energy Regen Rogue for Ruan Mei so that she'll have a 4-turn ultimate rotation. She will use the skill once, then basic 3 times. Because of her trace that gives her 5 energy at the start of her turns, she has very smooth rotations. For the F2P players out there, I also recommend you take S5 Cogs or S5 Memories of the Past on her, alongside an ERR rope and either Penacony or Von Wak. This allows you to run a 3-turn rotation with 1 skill and 2 basics. Her rotations are very much like Tingyun, and I suspect that you'll see lots of Tingyun comparisons being thrown around. Light Cone. For her light cones, there are a lot of good Harmony cones to choose from. Her signature light cone, Past Self and Mirror, is great, mainly due to it giving her a 60% break effect. It also gives her allies a damage percent boost when she uses her ultimate, which is nice. And even recovers SP if you have enough break effect on her. Though, I think if it gave attack percent instead of damage percent, it might be a little better. It also gives your allies energy at the start of each wave. That final effect won't be too useful in MOC since there's only around 2 waves. But it will definitely be useful in pure fiction where there will be lots of value from it. The best F2P option for her in my opinion is S5 Meshing Cogs or S5 Memories of the Past because I love my 3-turn ult rotations. I admit that I am a bit biased, but it's very comfortable to use. For real though, Memories of the Past I think is the best light cone to run on her due to it giving break effect while still giving you your 3-turn. It might not give your allies a damage boost and energy, but it sure does save you 75 pulls compared to her light cone. If you're using an ice DPS like Jingliu, it's usually better to run Planetary Rendezvous than Cogs though. DDD sounds nice, but its actual value is hard to calculate. I've also never got a copy of it, so I can't comment too much on its effectiveness. Sorry about that. Relics. For Relic Sets, I'd recommend 4-piece Messenger or 4-piece Thief. Messenger boosts your whole team's speed, and Thief helps with their break effect requirements. If you don't have a 4-piece set, then you can 2-piece both of them. For her planar relics, I recommend you take Penacony or Von Wak if you're running the 3-turn. Otherwise, I recommend you take Fleet of the Ageless as its effect is easy to proc. Broken Kill requires too much FRS to proc, and you're going to be squeezing substats for more break effect. For her main stats, you can run any chest piece, speed boots, any sphere, and an ERR rope for smoother rotations. For substats, your primary goal is to get speed substats and break effect substats. Ruan Mei's A6 trace increases her team's damage, and it depends on how much break effect she has. To get the maximum value for it, she'd need to have 180% break effect. You shouldn't be too hard pressed about hitting 180% exactly, but it's good to aim high. I calculated the amount of break substats you need. Ruan Mei has 57.3 break effect from her traces already, so you'd need around 21 break effect rolls to cap out. This means that around 60% of your substat rolls need to roll for break effect. It really is quite a lot, but Memories of the Past Signature Light Cone slash that down to around 10 substat rolls. Let's just hope you kept your break effect relics and did salvage all of them. Other than that, you can just invest into having as much speed as possible and some defensive stats on the side, so she's extra tanky. Team building and synergies. Honestly, she fits everywhere. The buffs she provides are damage percent, rest pen, weakness break efficiency, and speed. All these stats can be used by every DPS unit that's been released so far. In the current meta, most people have been running a double harmony base with a hyper carry, but Ruan Mei's skill and ultimate affect her whole team, so you can consider running dual carry comps. The only drawback or problem you might find with that is SP management. My suggestion for that would be to have a very fast sustainer with S5 multiplication and weave in basics every now and then for your sub DPSs. Crowd control units like March 7th and Welt are also great alongside Ruan Mei, as it allows them to literally perma-stun the enemy since they have their kit CC and the break CC lasts for 2 whole turns. Yukong, Asta, Hanya, and harmonies that can use their basic or offensive skill have great synergy with RM because not only will you be running a double harmony comp, but these units also help break enemies. 2 birds in 1 stone. If you're using Ruan Mei with units that constantly boost damage percent like Bronya or Hanya, you should consider swapping your main DPS sphere into an attack percent or HP percent sphere, depending on what they scale off. This is because Ruan Mei already gives 68 damage percent with their trace and skill. Bronya gives 66 damage percent and Hanya gives 30%. This is also entirely dependent on what buffs your hyper carry already has. For example, Blade would most likely be better off with an HP orb since he's usually getting perma-buffed by Bronya. On the other hand, Jingliu doesn't have that many damage percent buffs and has a gigantic attack percent buff already, so keeping that ice orb on her would be fine. For Jingliu players, you can run Pela, E1 Ruan Mei with Planetary Rendezvous, and utterly obliterate your enemies with a fat amount of Death Shred, Rest Pen, and tons of damage percent. Ruan Mei will boost Kafka's teams a lot, as nihilities like Luca, Sampo, and Gwenai Fen can break very well. And Ruan Mei boosts both Kafka and whatever dot unit you're using. The only hurdle when using this team is finding enemies that are weak to both Kafka and the daughter she's with. However, if you're planning to pull Black Swan, I suggest you don't pull Ruan Mei. Just trust me on this one, okay? Eidolons. For the question of E1 versus S1, I'd say E1 all the way. E1 says that when your ult is deployed, all allies will gain 20% Def Ignore. On its own, it's a minuscule damage boost, but it gets better the more Death Shred you stack. Alongside with Pela, Quantum Set, Resolution, and other effects, it can ramp up to 110% damage increase. Just make sure it doesn't overcap above 100 Death Shred. E2 increases all her allies' attack by 40% when they're dealing damage to a weakness broken enemy. E4 loosens up Ruan Mei's break effect requirements since it gives her 100% break effect for 3 turns when an enemy is broken. E6 extends her ult's duration by 1 turn, giving it 100% uptime with MOP or COGS. It also increases her talent's break MV by 200%. If you're an F2P player, I suggest you get E0 and dip. If you'll use her with Pela, then you can consider getting E1. Comparisons. There are 2 main comparisons that are being thrown around with Ruan Mei, and those are Tingyun and Silverwolf. Tingyun is still going to be good on hyper carries that really want energy, such as IL, Jingliu, Jingyuan, and much more. If you're going to use those hyper carries, just run the double harmony comp alongside Ruan Mei. With that said though, Ruan Mei excels better in dual carry comps. Silverwolf is one that's being thrown around, since Ruan Mei gives her whole team Def Ignore and Rest Pen with her E1 and ultimate. It is important to note that Ruan Mei's numbers are less than what Silverwolf gives, but Ruan Mei also provides more utility through her damage percent, speed percent, and weakness break efficiency. Silverwolf may be outclassed in terms of AoE ability and the sheer value and variety of buffs that Ruan Mei gives, but she'll always have something that Ruan Mei doesn't. Weakness implants. Ruan Mei requires you to carefully build your dual carry teams depending on each stage, while Silverwolf just chills and lets you play whatever you want. Conclusion. Ruan Mei's a very solid A tier for me, since she can fit in every account. I really don't have anything else to say, since she really is just that good. Go pull for her if you want, have fun. Personally though, I'm not pulling for Ruan Mei, and I'm instead going to pull for her on her rerun, if the meta still favors her. The reason is that Kafka's coming up soon, and I don't want to miss her. Not only that, but Black Swan and Sparkle are on the horizon too, so I need to lock in both my Dot team and Mono Quantum team. Unlucky really, but I am going to be streaming my uncle's pulls on my livestream account, so go there and watch me mod or celebrate. If you've got any suggestions or questions for this video or about things in the future, leave it down in the comments. Subscribe if you enjoyed, it really helps me out. That's it for me, my name is Kyte, and thanks for watching. See ya!